Well, hi. As promised, we are here with the Neewer slider, and I'm going back to that.
Okay.
Fred can call it whatever he wants. We've gone back and forth. There was a guy in our last, I think, podcast or the previous podcast, we mentioned that somebody said it was pronounced Neewer. This guy had a Chinese accent, and I didn't quite understand what he was saying. Apparently, someone actually wrote off to the company and asked, how do you pronounce your name? And they said, it's Neewer. But I'll go along with two other podcasters that come up and says, if it was supposed to be newer, you should have spelled it N-E-W-E-R. They didn't. They spelled it N-E-E-W-E-R. So I'm going to call it Neewer.
And you can. I'm calling it newer. The second E is silent.
That sounds more Chinese, like ni hao, Neewer. So.
But that way, anybody wants to correct you?
No.
It's either newer or newer, and we'll move on.
And it doesn't matter what you call it.
Yep.
It's the same company.
It works. It's a slider.
Yeah, it's a slider, along with a lot of other products they manufacture. Okay. But in addition, a number of people have commented to us that they couldn't get the app to come up in English. Now, I don't know whether that was the case because they didn't really follow up with the comments, but I have downloaded it now on 3 different iOS devices. In every instance, it was Chinese on the app page, but it came up on my phone and on the tablets in English. And
right.
Fred?
I downloaded it to my Android device, and same thing. However, what you had to do was figure out there was a big green button right under what looked like the logo and name.
All Chinese.
And you just pressed that and it downloaded it.
Yep.
And then once I got the APK and side-loaded it, it was fine, and it came up in English.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if some of the people hit the page and say, oh, it's all in Chinese, what do I do?
You use the QR code that's on the motor side. So there's 2 QR codes, one for iOS,
right.
one for
and it worked fine.
Android. So in addition to that, and I did an assembly video, but since then I found that in the little padded case that comes with the Neewer slider, we'll just call it the slider, there was instructions on how to assemble it. And so if you look at it, you find a little zipper in there, and along with that was 2 additional Allen wrenches. So I don't know if that was just in my case or if that's with everybody. I don't know what to say on that. I don't know. I only have the one. That's the only one I can go by. So, along with the confusion, is it English or Chinese? How do you put it together? That the time-lapse part of this wasn't exactly that clear either. Isn't that right, Fred?
Pretty much.
So, when we first interviewed this, boy, we got planes and everything else going over here today. So what I'm going to do is, are we on? I'm going to go ahead and turn the motor on, and I have gone over and I believe I figured out the time lapse. So let me bring up the app here. Nice thing is it instantly recognizes it when it comes up on the Bluetooth. It'll make sure your Bluetooth is on and it connects. So I'm now connected. And the first thing, and what I would recommend doing is always start this in the middle when you have to do the AB point set. So I'm going to go ahead and set my AB points, because this is important and you have to do this before you run it. Unfortunately, it has to be done every time. So that's going to be my A point. You press the little thing in the middle there, which is the OK. It looks like an aperture. And then we'll go set the B point. And also when you put it together, you make sure that your timing belt there is nice and taut. Don't stretch it too much. I mean, I just want to be...
Yeah, not popping torque tight, but just...
Now we got dogs barking, and that's going to be our B point. Okay, so we've got our AB point set, and then it should come up. I'm losing my voice here. And there we go. And it says setup failed. And this does this to me rather frequently, and I don't know why. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this. Well, let's see. We'll just do this again and try it this way. I like to start in the middle, but sometimes I got to do this 2 or 3 times. So we're giving you the full I don't want anybody that has to go through this and think it's just me. Look, it's happened to us too, right, Fred?
Well, we should try it on my phone and see if there's the same
We'll
problems.
have to do that, and we'll have to update them.
Because I noticed when I loaded mine, it actually, once I ran the app, it asked me if I wanted to turn Bluetooth on. I usually don't have it turned on all the time, so
Well,
I
you
simply
have to.
said yes. But it did it for me. I didn't have to go searching for it.
Okay, it's complete. So it did take me 2 times to do it that time. So I'm going to go back into the slider controller, and we go to a time lapse. Now here's where it gets confusing, and this is from the company that doesn't know Neewer from Newer, or whether you're in Chinese or English. So I think this is pretty typical, a lot of them, but at least this is in English. The first one here is it's got frames and shutters. It looks like there's 2 different things there. There's not really, and when you tap on that, it comes up with a deal here, and it says frames at the top. Ignore that, because really what it's doing is this is asking you how many seconds do I want to run the shutter. And your camera, in order to do this, you're going to let it do it. It has to be on bulb if you're going to let it control. So on a day like this, because the minimum you can do it is 2 seconds, even though it goes down to 1 second. So if I set my frames in here, let's say I'll do it 2 seconds, see if it lets me. It didn't. There, now it's 2 seconds. And then it's got a slider there that says whether you want it to go left or right, and in between it's got PIX AMT, or picture amounts. This would be the number of frames that you want it to take. When you enter that, it actually comes up and says, please enter the number of the shots. I'm going to leave it at 6. That's what I experimented. What this basically means is that from it to go from the right side all the way over to the left, it's going to take 6 frames. And at the bottom there, it's got the shoot length, which it says, okay, it's going to take 1 minute 12 seconds. So this is going to be a real short time lapse. 1 minute 12 seconds, and then the pix amount is going to count. Now they're okay on this, again, is a little aperture at the bottom. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead, press that, and as you can see, it took a frame. And now these are going to be way overexposed because this is taking a 2-second exposure. And I'll get around that in a minute. We'll just go ahead and let this. So as you can see, this is picture number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got 50 seconds to go, 49, 48, it's cutting down. So there's picture number 3. And then we can see back here that the pictures are completely overexposed.
Looks like a polar bear in a snowstorm.
Yeah. On a very bright day.
On a very bright day.
Okay, there's picture number 4. Coming up. And we got 18 seconds to go, 17, it's cutting down. There's picture number 5, and this will be the last one. So it goes all the way over. It took the 6 that I wanted. And that's the last one, and they're at number 6. So let's assume that you want to do a daytime time lapse, which is not beyond the realm of, I mean, certainly there's people, you're going to want to do time lapse during the day, not at night, but that's what that is going to do. And so what you would do in that case is just ignore that setting. Set your camera here on, well, I'm going to put it on manual, or you can use aperture priority. I don't recommend for time lapse using aperture priority. And this should take, I think this is set at 1/250th of a second. Going to make it go over to the right now, and we're going to leave it at our 6. And I'm not going to go all the way on this one because we don't want to sit here for another minute and in there. But watch, you see, now it will go, and it's taken, and it's
good exposure now, or
at least
reasonably.
Well, reasonable. I just said it. I
good,
didn't really check the exposure, so It looks like it may be a little hot.
Not bad though.
A little hot. Yeah, it's a little hot. When you're hot, you're hot.
Our director's back there posing.
So if you want to stop this, you can just go ahead and hit this again to stop it. Now, it's got another thing in here which seems kind of silly, but it's on here anyway, and right in the middle it says fixed shoot. Basically what that is, when you turn that on, it doesn't move.
It just takes the interval
It
shot.
stays still. Yeah, so the point is, I guess if you want to use this as your time-lapse device, you can, but as you can see now, it's just going to sit there. It's not going to move. It's going to stay in place. And
interesting.
it's still going to calculate the same amount of times in between frames as if it were moving.
And there goes the second one.
There's the second one. So, basically what you want to do is figure out how many, I want it to go from here to here. I want, say, 300 shots. So we would go into our frame shutter thing in there, and I'm sorry, we go into our pix amount rather, because I'm not going to use that, and we would put 300. Now it says the shoot length is going to be 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 48 seconds. We want the fixed shoot out, and so we would probably want it to start all the way over here on the side. So we'd want to go back and direct it to here, so it goes all the way across. And when we do that, it's going to take 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 48 seconds for this particular one. And I'm not using the built-in if we're doing a daytime. So that's essentially how it works. You could also, if you use your own little time-lapse device, you know, there's a number of ones that fit on the hot shoe, or you can also use those. You don't have to use this one. And a lot of those have the same issue, that if they're controlling the camera shutter, 2 seconds is about the
shortest interval
that they can do it in, so that's something.
Not much of an intervalometer, is it?
Not much, no.
So, for full disclosure, or to be at least fair, we decided go ahead and try it on the Android.
Yep.
And I've got the app set up, and what I'll do is I'll start going through a point set, and basically now
it works just like the iOS,
right.
And also when we were doing this as a test, it failed once on the Android too. So no, it's not you. Sometimes the AB point set doesn't always function. You might have to do it a couple different times before it. And I think it just did it again, didn't it?
It didn't fail. It just doesn't do anything.
Oh, that's because you got the there you go.
There it goes. It didn't click it close.
The OK aperture there, right. Which would it be that difficult just to put OK there?
Yeah, really. Notice what's happening is the camera is in a pan mode because Jim has adjusted the
we want to
slider.
Notice that you can adjust this. Don't hesitate to think that you can do a pan as well with the middle rod here. Also, if you're using that and you want a subject kept in focus, well, I should say in frame, not in focus, but make sure that you check it at both extremes and in the middle to make sure the subject really is, and adjust your pole before you take your shot. Otherwise, you might be disappointed. So right now we have it on the pan mode where it's doing a full pan, which could be a very interesting looking time lapse over an hour or so. So yeah, it basically functions, well, not basically, it does function exactly the same way. The same labels are on the Android as on iOS. So it really, it doesn't really matter which one you're using. Right. They both function the same.
And they do what they're supposed to. You may occasionally on an A/B set have a failure. It's basically you just, you know, if you have to, get out of the app, go right back in.
Yep.
Should pick it up. You may also have to actually turn this off and turn it back on. But
yeah,
it's not
on the
huge.
Android it looks like you have to reset. I have never had to do that on iOS.
And maybe we don't, just the app says that.
It's just a difference in the two, maybe it's the way the Bluetooth operates or something.
So but also, it works as advertised on that, and as Jim said, we could not find any version of Chinese that we were using the app when we downloaded it. It was all in English.
And I can't remember if I mentioned this, but I was able to take off the ends pieces to see if they'd fit my luggage, and unfortunately My suitcase, it did not. It was just about that much too long. But these can be removed with the included Allen wrench, the end pieces. The middle bar, however, does not. You'll have to get a larger Allen wrench to do that. It does come off, but you'll have to use your own Allen wrench. So that's all I got, Fred. And
I think that sums it up.
Again, we hope
for
that
the
for the Neewer.
Right, for the newer slider.
Hopefully that explains that. And if you have questions, as always, you can leave them in the comments or write us, email us. I'm Jim at the Fotobug.
I'm Fred at the Fotobug.
And we'll be
.com.
happy to, yes.
.com.
.com. Happy to answer your questions.
Yeah.
Hope that clears things up. If you have other issues, questions on the newer slider, let us know. We'll be happy to investigate it. And also, if anybody knows anything more, has any more updates on the Chinese versus English on the particular app, let me know as well, because we would be curious, because we can't replicate that issue, so we don't know. All right. Well,
Alrighty.
that's all I got.